still actually session 1. It was a big session. There was lots of things that went on, so I thought split the video. So this is session 1.5 really. We had a short break and then we were back in. So Celadine and Zed have been kitted out by the mayor with 2 guards, a ranger, a couple of spell potions to replenish their spell slots, and a couple of healing potions, and that is it. That is all the city can offer them. So they go looking for the entrance to the dungeons where the goblins have taken everyone. At the same time, I make both of the other players roll for Constitution. Narlock rolls higher, so he wakes up first. And he wakes up in a storeroom, underground, surrounded by chests, barrels, everything. He gives me a couple of search rolls and manages to come away with some quite nice loot. Now, I planned that because I expected people to try and run. And if they ran, they'd start halfway through the dungeon in one of 2 rooms. I rolled luck for which room he was in, and it was the one that was actually deeper in the mine. I decided that anyone who wound up in the deeper mine would get 3 rolls on a magical item table. He came away with a short sword of +2, a knife of +3, and a couple of healing potions and a speed potion. So, a bit of nice kit to give him a chance of fighting his way out. He starts thieving his way around, looking around, trying to find out where everything is. So, leave him to that. Go to Roberto. Roberto wakes up in a cage, stripped of all armour, stripped of all weapons. Nothing. And he's in the cage with loads of other people, about 30 other people. He rolled really good on his strength check. So I just said, as you wake up, you're in such shock, you just rip your way out of your bindings, not even rolling for it. So he's out, and he starts freeing everyone. And then once he's freed them, he asks what they should do. And they wind up charging at the cage to open it up. It's very higgledy-piggledy, and it's like sticks and bones that have been tied together with thick rope, so they wind up crashing through it. Great. There's some weapons and armour there. Roberto and 5 townspeople arm themselves. All the shields, all with 1 close combat weapon, and there's another halfling there who equips himself with a bow. So they're going to try and get out, while leaving a few people to defend the elderly and the infirm. They sneak their way down a bit, and Roberto and the halfling sneak a bit further to see what's going on, and they see the goblin chief. Not quite a hobgoblin, but not far off. Basically a really big, mean goblin with good armour, good weapons. So he starts doing all sorts of bardic tricks to try and distract them. And it works. He convinces 2 of the goblins' guards to turn on him. So that does some damage. I then roll melee for that. The goblin guard, dead in 1 hit. Goblin chief takes a couple of hits though. The other 2 goblin guards back on his side. So, done. Then 2 smaller goblins replace the larger goblin guard, picking up his weapons and equipment to replace him. I come back to Roberto in a bit. Then we go to Celadine and Zed. They're at the entrance with their 2 guards and 1 ranger, and they start moving through. Celadine gets a bit further ahead, at which point she remembers she's got this necklace of draconic friendship, and she sees ahead, with her elf eyes, because that's not racist, Aragorn, she sees ahead and sees a couple of goblins, a gnoll, and a couple of kobolds. She uses it, thinking a kobold will appear. I roll one of those kobolds turn on its allies. It pulls a knife from its loincloth and just shanks the gnoll. All hell breaks loose. Just absolute chaos, absolute destruction. Amazingly, the only person that did not take a hit was the kobold, who Celadine decided to try and talk to. And again, I decided to come up with a name for a kobold. It was a black kobold, so I called it Krilly. Don't ask me why. I think there were Father Ted jokes bouncing around the table at the time, so I just went with Krilly. Well, Krilly would become an integral part of this story. Again, what is it with kobolds? What is it with kobolds becoming major parts of the story? I think players just like kobolds and goblins. They're little and they're cute, and they're not fucking cute. Anyway, so Crilly winds up replacing his dagger with a scimitar that he's stolen from the Knoll, and they start planning what they're going to do because there's a chest in front of them. At this point, I return to Narlock, who is actually not far away from them and is actually making his way towards them. So he hears the fight, and when he hears the fight, he comes around the corner just a little bit, and the only two that see each other are Narlock and Zed. They clock each other. And it's like, you! And everyone's really happy and makes a lot of noise. They make a lot of noise. Knoll 4 goblins. Ambush attack, straight on the back of Narlock. Jump, and back in combat. So straight out of combat, straight into combat. And that, again, went quite well, except for one of the guards getting dropped. Basically, as the attack happened, the 2 guards saw Narlock, saw he wasn't a kobold or a goblin or a gnoll, and their guard instincts took over, and they just linked up to defend him. One of the guards, as I said, got dropped. Luckily, Zed was able to stabilize him, give him some health, and then send him back out. So he's still alive, but is obviously not able to fight. They continue their way through the dungeon. I return to Roberto. Roberto has decided that they're going to ambush attack the big goblin. So him and his 4 normies, they are just villagers, that's it. They're villagers who picked up some short swords. That's it. No better than militia. They jump this group of 5 goblins. 1 big, 2 elite, and 2 regular goblins. It's just a skirmish. It's just madness. All the rolls that were going in every different direction. There were crit fails on one side. The halfling lost his short bow, had to replace it with a knife. This just continued. The halfling got killed. The human nearly died. The dwarf nearly died. The half-orc was just about holding on. Roberto I don't think he took much damage, but he was struggling. He managed to get his panpipes in, so he was able to use some of his bardic powers. So this just kind of was a bit of back and forth. I kept rolling throughout for noise and the goblin chief shouting, and because none of these 5 characters, including Roberto, had speak goblin, they couldn't understand him. So as soon as the skirmish is over, they are unable to loot because 2 doors slam open and in rush about 40 combined goblins and kobolds and rats. It's just straight in. Roberto fails his wisdom check. The dwarf and half-orc don't, thankfully. So I have them grab Roberto and grab the human who had also failed his wisdom check, and they peg it back to the pen, and they then pull up a barricade. Roberto, my halfling bard, is now inspiring an entire battle line, trying to keep this barrier engaged until help comes. Luckily, help is on the other side of the dungeon, currently having a fight with, again, kobolds and rats. Lots of them. This is when there's a rule with Illusionist that I can understand why it got written out in later editions, though I don't think it has. There's a spell called Phantasmal Force, which if a enemy fails a wisdom check, the effect of the illusion does damage. Celadine decided to illusionary force Fireball and hoiked it into the line. I rolled for how many attention they got. Roll for wisdom checks. That didn't matter because she rolled a 20 on her deception. Critical pass. I made the rest of the party roll with bonuses, with the exception of Crilly and the Ranger, who were the only 2 left alive who weren't main party. Crilly and the Ranger, Crilly crit passed on his wisdom check. The Ranger just barely passed. Party unharmed. All of these other enemies, 6d6 damage. Same damage as a Rod of Fireball spell, which is basically 6 firebolt spells going in multiple directions. That's the damage I gave it. And that was it. Combat over. They were struggling. They'd lost to the guard, but there we go. Combat over. They slit the throats. At which point Celadine gets a bright idea. Asks Crilly where they took the prisoners. Took them a little while to work that out. They're taking a couple of wrong turns. They do it. Crilly leads them straight around. They come across a couple of goblins and some kobolds gambling. I threw that as it is an innocuous comment. I realised I shouldn't have, because in his 0 session, Narlock gained a set of weighted dice that would always roll 7. So they play, and he wins, and basically convinces the goblins that he will, if he wins, they get to go past. If he loses, they can eat his leg. He knows he can't lose. The only way he'd lose is if he failed deception checks, and he only makes deception checks after the first roll. So only if he gets greedy. So he didn't get greedy. He was smart. The goblin did give him a reward for winning the gamble, because I've got this thing that the goblins like gambling, so if you beat them in a gamble, you get a prize. Very old Celtic mythology. When you do gambles with the Fae, you get what you dealed, and you get a prize, because you were smart enough to deal with them. So they carry on, all the way up, and that's when they come across this fight. And Celadine forgets about Crilly. The whole party forget about Crilly. Crilly, at this point, I decided he knew what was going on, so started rolling. 3 natural 20s for an NPC. I knew that whatever trouble they got into, Crilly would come and help them. I didn't know what that was yet. So, they start. And they are doing well. They are mowing down the back line of this fight. But you're talking about 3 PCs and an NPC helper. Basically, they're just skimming the back line over and over and over again. And they wind up only taking out a few of them. Celadine again tries to use the firebolt, doesn't work. Uses a paint spray, that drops a couple of the enemies. But they're struggling. There's a lot of enemies. At which point, as they're all getting low on health, here comes Crilly, who has grabbed some more kobolds, and is now charging across the barricade. In front of the barricade, just mowing down the goblins, gnolls, and rats. Because all the other kobolds see what's going on and go, "Oh, we're on the wrong side." Kill. And that was it. End of encounter. So Celadine tells them to go and find Whiteband, who was the kobold who gave her the necklace. All of the kobolds leave. The guard, the ranger, who's still alive, goes with the kobolds and Crilly, who says he's going back to the city to get a job. The party loved that. They absolutely loved that. Leaving just the party members inside for a moment, as everyone's escorted out, safe and sound, mission success. They start leaving as well a few minutes afterwards while they regroup, just patch up their wounds. At the exit, I thought the session had gone so well they deserve a little bit of a reward for some clever playing, and the reward they got was meeting what they think is the big bad evil guy. Now I'm saying that again because I know a couple of my players watch these videos, so I don't want to let anything slip. This character was the same character that Narlock met in the dungeons in his 0 session. The young man in black with the dragon, half lion, half dragon creature. The party know what it is. Luckily, between Celadine's book smarts and Zed's monster lore, they know what this is. They know how dangerous this animal is, and the fact that this guy is treating this thing like a lap cat gets them a little bit scared. They start calling him names, but start saying he's a bit of a twat, bit of a arrogant, condescending prick, but he gives them a warning, informing them that they have stolen from his stepfather, who was the one who clearly orchestrated this attack. and he informs them that in 1 year hence, they are coming back in stronger forces. They are coming back to take what they consider to be their prize. They don't know what that prize is. They don't know who this man is. They don't know what's going on. The only thing they know about him, black leather, has mastery over reptiles. He does inform them he will not be using kobolds anymore because they've broken his control over them twice now with the blue kobolds and the black kobolds. There are only as many kobold tribes as there are draconic colours. So he has no real intention of using kobolds anymore because the power he has can clearly be broken on them in the same way that it can be broken on dragons. But that gives him all reptiles and all draconic creatures. And I did warn them of that. I'm looking forward to seeing how much they realise in the book is draconic. Anyway, he goes, they're all scared, they're all pissed off. They go to bed. End of session. And that is it. That is the end of the first session. Party loved it. Game was great. I hope you enjoyed these summaries. I am now caught up with the party's antics as it stands. Our next session is, as of this one, our next session is in 2 weeks because myself and the guy who plays Zed in my party are swap DMing. So I DM 1 week, he DMs the next. So our next session is the Dragon Age campaign we're playing. If you'd like to hear summaries on that, I can talk with my party and ask if they're okay with that. I also have a Slay Industries game I'm currently a player in, and again, happy to do summaries on that. Again, if people would like to hear them, I can ask the party, see if they're okay having summaries. And that's it really. So, keep an eye out for the next video. Please like and subscribe. Tell me what you think of these videos. Tell me if you don't like these videos. This one has been the longest. I will try and keep these videos shorter than this from now on. I really am trying to keep these as short as possible. A lot of things happen, and I want to give you guys the most enjoyment that I can. So, thank you very much. See you later.